The sun streamed through the tall glass windows of Collins and Pierce Financial, casting bright rays onto the polished floors. Emily sat at her desk, organizing papers and preparing for another long day. She had only been working at the company for a few months, but everything felt routine now. She enjoyed the buzz of activity around her, the chatter of colleagues, and the way the office seemed to hum with ambition. That morning, she spotted him for the first time. Alex, a guy new to the office, stepped off the elevator. He wore a slightly wrinkled suit and a tie that looked like it belonged in a thrift store. But it was his shoes that caught her attention, old, scuffed, and slightly too big. They squeaked against the floor as he walked, and Emily couldn't help herself. She chuckled softly, glancing away quickly, hoping he hadn't noticed. Alex did notice. His cheeks turned a light shade of red as he walked toward the break room. He seemed so focused on the screen of his phone that he didn't see her laughter as playful. He probably thought she was rude. Emily felt a wave of guilt wash over her. The last thing she wanted was to hurt someone's feelings, but her focus was pulled back to her work. The day passed in a blur of emails and meetings. Every so often, she stole glances at Alex from across the room. He was quiet, always listening more than talking. She admired that, even if she didn't quite understand it. As weeks passed, Emily saw more of him. Alex became a fixture in the office. He was smart and hardworking, often the first to arrive and the last to leave. Little by little, she learned that he was interning with the marketing team while completing his MBA. Her respect for him grew, but so did her curiosity about his life outside the office. He seldom shared, keeping his personal world locked away tightly. That Friday, they had a company happy hour. Everyone was excited to unwind and socialize after a long week. Emily arrived early, eager to grab a drink and mingle. The atmosphere was alive with laughter and the clinking of glasses. As people gathered in groups, she spotted Alex standing alone by the bar. He fiddled with his phone, glancing at the folks around him but not joining in. She decided to approach him. She said, her voice bright and friendly. He looked up surprised and his expression softened. "Oh, I didn't want to be in the way." She smiled, warming to his honesty. "You're not in the way at all." A part of her wanted to ask about the shoes again but kept it to herself. They stood together, sipping drinks and engaging in light chat. Each laugh from him sent a little spark through Emily. She learned that he wasn't just the intern with the tough shoes. He had ambitions and dreams, somehow both ordinary and extraordinary. His stories of an ambitious childhood living in a small town resonated with her. He spoke of his parents who worked multiple jobs trying to provide for him, and how that motivated him to push harder in his studies. With every passing moment, the laughter faded away, and a different connection began to build, one underlined by understanding and mutual respect. As the night unfolded, Emily realized she had misjudged him based on his shoes. The laughter she had once found in his appearance transformed into admiration for his determination and resilience. The next week brought more change. Emily had a meeting with her manager about a project she was leading. She entered the sleek conference room and noticed the names on the access list for the executive floor were neatly printed on the wall. The usual rock stars of the company flashed their names prominently. But then among the big names there was Alex's, a name she hadn't expected to see. Confusion danced through her mind. Why was he on this list? Was he moving up fast? As the meeting carried on, she couldn't focus on the discussion ahead. Her thoughts swirled around, mixed with surprise and admiration. She casually approached him later that afternoon. "I saw your name on the executive elevator list." He chuckled, running a hand through his hair. "Oh, that. I managed a small project with the team and they invited me to present," she asked, her voice teasing. His face lit up, a blend of pride and humility. "Well, it's exciting." Emily couldn't shake the unexpected sense of pride she felt for him. It wasn't just that he was moving up, but he was doing it on his own merit. The shoes, she realized, were a small part of who he was, a disguise for the ambitious spirit beneath. Days turned into weeks and their friendship deepened. They shared more coffee breaks, swapped inside jokes, and even started working together on some projects. Emily no longer thought about his shoes when she saw him. Instead, she saw a man filled with passion and determination. She admired his intelligence and integrity, qualities that went far beyond the fabric of a suit or the shine of shoes. Then one afternoon, she walked into the break room and noticed Alex sitting at the table, scrolling through something on his phone. A moment of hesitation passed. He looked up and met her eyes. "Hey, Emily." "Sure." He put his phone down and took a breath. "I wanted to ask if you want to grab dinner sometime." Emily felt her heart race. This was not what she was expecting. Her mind tumbled through thoughts like it was playing a game of catch-up. The guy who once made her laugh with his shoes was now asking her out. As she looked at him, somehow these faded, scuffed shoes represented the journey he had taken, the hard work that had led him to this moment. She felt a mix of flattery and nerves. "I'd love to." His eyes brightened. "Great, a date." She liked the sound of that. As the week passed, her anticipation swelled. Friday seemed to take forever to arrive, but finally the day was here. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her outfit, feeling a little nervous energy in her stomach. Would it be awkward? Would he feel like he was different now with his name on the executive list? Part of her hoped he would remain true to himself. When they met that evening, he looked sharp. The suit hung on him well, much better than the first day they had met. but for Emily it was still Alex, the one who had grown. They talked and laughed the night away, sharing stories, hopes, and dreams over dinner. Each moment felt timeless, filled with genuine connection. As they left the restaurant, Alex reached for her hand. "You know, I remember when I first stepped into the office. It was intimidating. It was just a reflex, I swear," he chuckled, the sound warm and genuine. The laughter between them faded, replaced by something deeper. They stood on the sidewalk, looking at the city lights twinkling in the distance. In that moment, she understood life wasn't about the shoes you wore or the title next to your name. It was about the heart, the passions, and the connections you made along the way. They walked home under the stars, hand in hand, and Emily felt a sense of fulfillment. She had laughed at his shoes, only to discover a treasure of greatness hiding behind them. And as they ventured into a new chapter together, she smiled to herself, realizing that sometimes the most unexpected moments take us down the most meaningful paths. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, and the usual office buzz filled the lobby of Collins and Pierce Financial. Emily walked in, coffee cup in hand, when she caught sight of him for the first time. His shoes squeaked against the smooth floor, a sound that shouldn't stick in your mind, but it did. They looked worn, mismatched, and frankly, they were a little ridiculous. A laugh escaped her lips before she could hold it back. Alex's cheeks flushed crimson. He quickly looked down as if the shoes had sprouted roots and were pulling him into the floor. He turned away, pretending to scroll through his phone. Emily immediately regretted her reaction, realizing that what seemed humorous to her could feel humiliating to him. As she walked to her desk, she felt a mix of emotions: embarrassment for laughing, guilt for being judgmental. She peered over her cubicle, watching as he grabbed a coffee, standing alone, swallowed by the bustling crowd around him. Each sip he took appeared to add to the fortress he had created around himself. Days turned into weeks, and that initial moment faded into the background. Emily would see Alex almost every day, that same pair of two big shoes creaking as he moved. He rarely spoke, always lost in thought or typing furiously on his laptop. But there was something about him, a quiet strength that made her increasingly curious. What did he dream of? Where did he come from? Her chance to know him came unexpectedly one Friday evening during a company happy hour. The energy in the room was electric, a buzz that filled every corner. She spotted him standing by the bar, still wearing those same shoes, looking slightly uncomfortable in this loud, festive atmosphere. It stirred a decision in Emily. She let the laughter go and see if she could get to know the man behind the unfortunate footwear. "Hey, Alex," she asked, her voice cutting through the din like a warm breeze. He turned, surprised, and then nodded, a hint of relief washing over him. Sure," she prodded, intrigued, just processing being around all these people. Emily chuckled. "You and me both," he laughed sheepishly. "Yeah, I know," she teased, leaning in. His face brightened a little. "Well, I've had these since high school. They're comfort over style for me." There was an honesty to him that was refreshing. They delved into conversations about everything: his hometown, an underfunded school, his dreams of making an impact in the finance world, her aspirations in marketing. The laughter came easily to them now, and the nervous tension dissipated like clouds on a sunny day. She began to see him differently, beyond the shoes. Life at the office turned into a montage of polite glances and casual chats. She learned that Alex was an intern working hard, often spending late evenings on projects that seemed to linger like shadows in the bright, busy office. He did this all while dealing with skepticism from others who didn't see past his unpolished appearance. But there was something more adept to him that lingered in the way he spoke about his goals, his family, and his drive. She admired how he carried himself even in the face of their often critical world. The more they talked, the more she found herself drawn to his perspective, his resilience. One morning, the air crackled with excitement as the company prepared for a big presentation day. Employees buzzed, running through final preparations, ensuring everything was perfect. As Emily passed the executive offices, she caught sight of a list pinned to the wall. There, near the top, was his Alex. Her mind raced, disbelief swirling with pride. How could he have secured an opportunity like that? Later, as she approached him at his desk, a burning question lingered in her mind. "I saw your name on the access list." He nodded, a hint of nervous energy in his voice. "Yes, it's a small project I've been working on," she exclaimed, eyes wide. "You're one of the few interns getting this chance." He rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassment creeping back in. "What do you mean it doesn't mean much?" It was hard to keep her enthusiasm under control. She could feel the air change between them, the nervous energy buzzing stronger than before. Alex shook his head. "You don't understand, I'm just an intern," she encouraged, her heart swelling with admiration. "You're here to grow and to learn. This is incredible." Their gazes locked for a moment, and for the first time, Emily saw a flicker of confidence in his eyes. "Thank you, Emily." Days rolled into nights as he prepared for the presentation. She saw him immersed in research, tirelessly refining each slide. Each time she crossed paths with him, he seemed more focused, more determined. It was as if the weight of those scuffed shoes had transformed into a source of strength. Then came the day of the presentation. The auditorium was filled with executives, their faces a blend of excitement and skepticism. Emily sat in the back, heart pounding in her chest, both terrified and hopeful. With each passing moment, the energy in the room felt almost tangible. Alex stood up at the front, hands slightly shaking as he clicked through his presentation slides, but his voice grew steadier with each word. He spoke with clarity about his ideas, his passion seeping through every sentence. The confidence he once lacked now radiated from him, captivating the room. When he finished, the applause was deafening. Emily couldn't help but cheer along with everyone. His smile lit up the stage like the sun breaking through clouds. It was beautiful to see. Later, as people filtered out, she rushed to him, her heart bursting with pride. "You were incredible, Alex, thanks," he said a bit sheepishly, still riding the high of the moment. As they stood there, the world around them faded. She wanted to reach out to close the gap between them, but a moment of hesitation crept in. Would he still think of those shoes? Would he ever see himself the way she saw him now? "You know, when I first met you, I thought your shoes were an obstacle, but they're a part of your journey." He laughed softly, the tension easing. "You made fun of them first, or maybe those shoes should be your trademark," she teased, trying to lighten the mood. "After all, you've got a special story behind them." The conversation flowed easily, and for the first time it felt less like mentor and mentee and more like equals. They shared dreams and ambitions, committed to working hard no matter how humble their beginnings. Weeks turned into months, filled with various projects and late nights. Her friendship with Alex blossomed, transforming into something deeper. He embraced challenges and she cheered him on. Each achievement marked another step along the path leading to collaboration. Then one evening, while brainstorming ideas for their next project, Alex suddenly looked serious. "Emily, there's something I've been thinking about," he began, his voice just above a whisper. She met his gaze, curiosity igniting. "I've really enjoyed working together, and I feel like this great connection." Breath caught in her throat for a moment, but uncertainty slipped away. Her heart raced. The vulnerability in his eyes mirrored the cautious hope in her own. From that moment, their dynamic shifted once again, merging ambition and affection. They were no longer just colleagues or friends. They became partners, pushing each other while leaning on one another for support. Each coffee break turned into meaningful conversations, and every late night evolved into laughter over pizza. Looking back, Emily realized that initial laugh at his shoes was just a small moment, a surface-level remark that barely scratched the illusion of what made Alex who he was. She felt lucky to have unpeeled those layers, to see the heart beneath the shoes that originally elicited her laughter. Days turned into years, and together they progressed through the highs and lows of their careers, hand in hand, as partners in both life and work. The scuffed shoes remained a memory, a quirky reminder of how they started, two ambitious souls who found connection amidst misunderstandings. As he stood before the executive board one day, confidently presenting yet another project with the same passion that first ignited him, Emily watched from the back. She knew that there was power in appearances, but there was also so much more beneath the surface. It took time, understanding, and kindness to cut through the layers. And as she caught Alex's eye, a shared smile passed between them. She thought, who wouldn't want to wear a pair of shoes with a story this rich? The first time she saw his shoes, Emily couldn't help herself. Laughter bubbled up, escaping her lips in a quick laugh that echoed in the quiet lobby of Collins and Pierce Financial. There he stood, Alex, with a pair of shoes that looked like they belonged a decade earlier than he did, worn, scuffed, and a bit too big. It all seemed so out of place in an office where everyone else wore polished shoes and tailored suits. As soon as the sound left her mouth, she regretted it. Alex's face flushed crimson, the embarrassment washing over him like a cold wave. He quickly looked down, avoiding her gaze, and hurried to the coffee machine as if that was the most urgent task in the world. The laughter faded in Emily's throat as she watched him retreat. She hadn't meant to mock, she had simply been surprised. This was a competitive place, one where first impressions mattered, and Alex's shoes stood out like a sore thumb. Yet there was something about him, his quiet demeanor, the way he always had a book in hand, and his ability to navigate the bustling office with a gentle resolve that intrigued her. Days turned into weeks, and though Emily tried to forget that moment, it lingered. Every time she saw Alex at his desk, the same scuffed shoes creaking as he walked by, she felt a twinge of guilt. She watched him interact with the team, always poised yet quietly observant, his presence somehow drawing people in even as he seemed to distance himself. She discovered he was an intern, eager to prove himself in this cutthroat world. Emily admired his dedication. He came in early, stayed late, and worked on projects with fervor. As time passed, she couldn't help but steal glances at him, marveling at his focus and passion. Yet that laughter still echoed in her mind, a ghost of a moment she wished she could erase. Eventually, the company decided to host a happy hour for the staff. The atmosphere was electric, filled with chatter and laughter. Emily arrived with her coworkers, excited to unwind after a busy week. As she mingled, she saw Alex standing by the bar, alone. He nursed a drink, his eyes flickering nervously between the crowd. Feeling bold, she approached him. "Hey, Alex," he looked up, surprised, and nodded. Yeah, sure, I was just," she asked, genuinely curious. "Just how loud it is," he replied, gesturing to the noisy throng around them. Emily laughed, sensing his discomfort. You and me both, but you're here now. His gaze flicked around the room, and for a moment she saw the weight of the world resting on his shoulders, watching. She asked, the realization striking her suddenly. Yeah, but I stand out, he said, his eyes dropping to his shoes. And there it was again, that vulnerable honesty in his voice struck a chord with her. She said with a grin. He chuckled softly, and she noticed how he relaxed a little. They spent the evening talking, sharing stories about their lives, their fears, and their dreams. She learned about his small-town upbringing, how his parents had sacrificed everything to send him to college. Every word dripped with sincerity, and she found herself leaning in, captivated by his unwavering spirit. Weeks passed, and Emily and Alex became regular companions in the office. They shared coffee breaks, exchanged jokes, and even collaborated on projects. She could see how dedicated he was, how hard he worked to prove himself. But with every passing day, she also began to realize something profound. The shoes, the very thing she had laughed at, were only a glimpse of the person he truly was. Then one fateful day, everything changed. The air was charged with excitement as the company prepared for a major presentation. Buzz swept through the office. As Emily walked down the hall, she spotted a list tacked up on the wall. It was an executive elevator access list. She scanned the names, familiarity sparking warmth, until she reached the bottom. Her heart skipped a beat. There, among the towering names of seasoned professionals, was Alex's. Stunned, she blinked. How could this be? Was he presenting? Does he even know what this means? Shocked pride brewed in her chest as she made her way back to him. Alex, I saw your name on the executive access list. He looked up, a mixture of pride and disbelief washing over his features. Yeah, I guess. I'm just doing a small presentation on a project I worked on, she exclaimed, her enthusiasm bubbling over. This is incredible. You've earned this opportunity. The modesty in his eyes flickered. I don't know, she challenged, shaking her head. You've stood out for everything you do. As they lost themselves in conversation about his upcoming presentation, she saw a light in him, a spark igniting that had been buried under self-doubt. The celebration spilled into the evening, and as the big day approached, Alex threw himself into his preparation. He practiced, poring over slides, rehearsing what he would say, and dissecting every tiny detail with precision. The day of the presentation arrived, and the atmosphere hummed with tension. Emily felt her heart in her throat as they filed into the auditorium. Each row was packed with executives, their eyes fixed on the podium. The room felt electric, a wave of anticipation rippling through the air. When Alex was introduced, he walked to the front, shoes squeaking again, a small reminder of where he started. But this time his posture was different. His confidence radiated from him like sunlight breaking through clouds. He commanded the room with his poise, speaking with clarity about his ideas and presenting them with passion. Emily watched, heart swelling with pride as he captivated everyone's attention. The way he articulated his thoughts, the enthusiasm twinkling in his eyes, sent shivers down her spine. He was no longer the guy with the scuffed shoes. He was a force full of ambitions and dreams. When he finished, the room erupted into applause. It felt like a celebration of not just his work, but of everything he represented, the journey, the growth, the struggle to rise above expectations. Emily leapt to her feet, cheering with elation. Later, as the crowd began to disperse, she rushed to him, her heart racing. You were amazing, Alex, he said, still soaking in the moment. She exclaimed. His smile widened, breaking free from the shyness that once held him back. Thanks, Emily, that means a lot. You proved everyone wrong, she said, her eyes shining. You've always had it in you. As they stood there, words flowed effortlessly between them. It felt as if they had crossed some invisible threshold, moving from colleagues to partners in this incredible journey. Weeks turned into months as Alex continued to climb through the ranks, receiving accolades and recognition. He went from an intern to a fully fledged team member, his work solidifying his place at Collins and Pierce. And through it all, Emily remained by his side, cheering him on as he thrived. But the shadow of that first laugh remained, a soft reminder of the journey they both took. One day, sitting in the break room, she decided to confront it. Alex, she began, hesitating for a moment. Do you remember the first time we met? He chuckled, the laughter brightening his eyes. Yeah, I do, but look at you now, she said, her voice laced with affection. You've gone so far since then. I know, he replied, thoughtful, but they were a reminder of where I started. You're right, she said, fully understanding now. From that moment onward, she saw him in a new light. Alex became a living testament to resilience. His journey from those embarrassing shoes to the executive elevator access list became a shared story they would tell in the years to come, a tale of growth, determination, and overcoming the odds. And as they laughed together, the connection between them deepened. They became partners in more ways than one, helping each other grow, chasing dreams, and building a future together. Emily learned that moments of embarrassment could transform into stepping stones. Sometimes laughter could lead to understanding, and through understanding, connections could flourish. In the end, the scuffed shoes remained an unforgettable part of their story, a symbol not of ridicule, but of a beautiful journey filled with determination, dreams, and the power of believing in oneself. And as they walked together, side by side, through the bustling halls of success, they carried that lesson with them. Never judge a shoe by its size or a person by their appearance. The lobby of Collins and Pierce Financial was a whirlwind of activity, busy professionals rushing to meetings, phones buzzing, coffee cups clinking. In this world of polished shoes and tailored suits, Emily couldn't help but snicker. There he was, Alex, standing by the coffee machine in scuffed sneakers that looked like they had survived a war. They didn't just squeak, they practically announced his presence with every awkward step. In that moment, laughter erupted before she could stop it. It wasn't meant to be cruel, but it felt like a reflex. Alex's face turned bright red. The spark of embarrassment flickered in his eyes as he quickly averted his gaze to the floor. She instantly regretted her reaction, wishing she could rewind the moment, but it was too late. Alex hurried away, the awkwardness hanging between them like a cloud. She felt a pang of guilt, knowing she might have hurt someone she didn't truly know. Days passed, and while the laughter lingered in her mind, she saw him every day around the office, more focused on his work, more determined to contribute. Little by little, Emily grew curious about him, not the shoes that had made her laugh, but the man behind them. The more she observed, the more she realized that Alex was more than what he appeared to be. He was the intern who never complained, the one who stayed late to perfect his presentations, and the quiet genius who often surprised everyone in meetings with brilliant insights. She found herself stealing curious glances at him, wanting to understand the depth behind that shy smile. He seemed to exist in a world of his own, focused yet somehow distant, as if he were piecing together a complicated puzzle that only he could see. Then came Friday, a day buzzing with excitement as the company announced a happy hour for everyone to unwind. Emily arrived early, hoping to shake off the stress of the week. As the whiskey flowed and laughter filled the space, she spotted Alex standing by the bar, his unusual shoes still firmly planted on his feet. He was nursing a drink, visibly uncomfortable, surrounded by animated conversations. Taking a breath, she mustered her courage and approached him. She called out, her voice cutting through the noise. He looked up, surprise painting his face. His nervous smile was both charming and endearing. "Looks like you could use a good laugh," she teased, referring to the raucous crowd around them. "You're not alone." His eyes crinkled with a gentle laugh, and she could see the tension release a little. "Yeah, it's overwhelming." "Same here," she replied, her eyes sparkling. "But here we are." As the evening unfolded, they lost themselves in what felt like an effortless conversation. Emily learned about Alex's hometown, small, quiet, filled with nothing but apple orchards and dreams of a bigger world. He spoke about his family, the struggles they faced to give him an education, and his determination to make their sacrifices worth it. With every story, Emily felt layers peeling back, revealing a richness to his character that had nothing to do with his shoes. She found herself leaning in, captivated, not just by his words, but by the fire in his eyes when he talked about his goals. This was a young man on a mission, and with every laugh they shared, she felt a connection deepening. Weeks passed, and their friendship blossomed beyond the office walls. They shared coffee breaks, worked late nights together on projects, and each conversation felt like an invitation into one another's lives. Emily admired his dedication, but she also saw the storm of anxiety swirling within him. Alex was ambitious, but also filled with self-doubt, driven yet hesitant. Then came the day that everything changed. Emily walked into the office, her mind whirling with deadlines and to-do lists, when she spotted a small, ordinary-looking paper tacked to the wall, the executive elevator access list. It was a simple, unassuming document, yet her heart raced as she scanned the names. Just above the usual rock stars of the company, she found Alex's name, bold and prominent. Her heart skipped. This couldn't be right. Alex, presenting to the executives. She felt a mix of disbelief and pride swell up inside her. Could this be the breakthrough she had dreamed he could achieve? She raced down the hallway to find him, her enthusiasm bubbling over. "Alex," she exclaimed, barely able to contain her excitement. His face lit up, but the joy was soon shadowed by uncertainty. "Yeah, it's just for a small project, I don't know," she replied, shaking her head in disbelief. "It's huge." He rubbed the back of his neck, eyes darting around the room as if searching for confidence. "I just don't want to mess it up. Everyone's counting on me, and I mean, exactly." She leaned closer, wanting to dissolve the self-doubt that clouded his vision. "You've worked so hard for this." As their eyes met, she saw a flicker of hope ignite within him. She watched him gradually let go of the anxiety that had gripped him for so long. In that moment, she believed he could conquer anything. The day of the presentation arrived, and the office buzzed with a charged atmosphere. It felt electric, like the calm before a storm. Emily felt her heart pound as she entered the auditorium, filled with executives whose gazes sharpened into the center stage. She spotted Alex near the front, looking strikingly composed in a tailored suit that fit him perfectly now. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the room, steady and confident. As he presented his project, the eyes that once dismissed him began to see him anew. He spoke with passion, weaving together facts, figures, and a vision that captivated the audience. Emily watched, her heart swelling with pride as he commanded the room. This was the moment he had worked hard for, and he was living it. The applause that erupted as he wrapped up felt like fireworks, the culmination of all the late nights, the dedication, and the humility that had defined him. As the audience stood to their feet, she cheered loudest, her excitement spilling over. Alex smiled, the joy radiant on his face. In that instant, it wasn't just about the successful presentation. It was about everything he had overcome, every doubt he had crushed in the pursuit of this moment. Weeks turned into months as Alex's star continued to rise. He secured a full-time role at Collins & Pierce, and with every new project, he shone a little brighter. Emily remained at his side, supporting him through the triumphs, celebrating victories small and large. Their bond deepened, turning from co-workers into confidants and then something more. But the shadow of that first encounter lingered, a small reminder of the journey they had both taken. Finally, one day, while concentrated on a project in the break room, Emily decided to confront it head-on. "Alex," she said softly, drawing his attention. He chuckled, a playful glint in his eyes. "How could I forget? But in some ways it was also the start of everything," she said, her voice sincere. "You weren't just that moment, Alex. I think it was a turning point for me," he admitted, his tone more reflective. "I realized that sometimes the things we fear can lead us to something greater." And there it was, the realization that transformed the laughter into a powerful lesson. It wasn't just about shoes, but about understanding people beyond their surface. They both had grown, Emily learning to see beyond initial impressions, and Alex embracing his journey, no matter how humble the beginnings. As the seasons changed, the connection they had nurtured flourished into something beautiful. They built a life together, filled with late-night brainstorming sessions and weekend adventures. Each step they took felt like a shared journey, a path filled with laughter, ambition, and understanding. And through it all, Alex kept those old shoes tucked away, a gentle reminder of the day that had changed everything. They had brought him laughter and embarrassment, but ultimately they had led him to Emily. As she looked at Alex, now standing tall in freshly polished shoes that glimmered under the conference room lights, she couldn't help but smile. They had both learned invaluable lessons along the way, lessons about the importance of kindness, the beauty of individuality, and the power of believing in oneself. In the end, the shoes were a small part of it all. They were a reminder of a journey that shifted from misunderstanding to empowerment, from laughter to enlightenment. And as they ventured into the future together, hand in hand, both Alex and Emily knew that success was built on more than appearances. It thrived on authenticity, connection, and the courage to rise above. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing the bustling lobby of Collins & Pierce Financial. Emily stepped inside, arms full of files and a large cup of coffee. She was navigating her way through another hectic day at the firm when she spotted him, Alex. His shoes caught her eye, first scuffed, mismatched, and shining like they belonged to a different era. One glance was all it took. Laughter bubbled out of her before she could catch herself. The brief, innocent giggle hung in the air, quickly morphing into an awkward silence. Alex's face turned crimson as he shrank back, looking down at the offensive footwear as if it were suddenly a nest of snakes. He hastily shuffled away, and Emily felt the heat of embarrassment wash over her. The laughter faded into a twinge of guilt. She hadn't meant to hurt him, and yet, here they were, two strangers now caught in a web of awkwardness. As the days passed, Emily caught sight of Alex regularly. Each time she saw him, that initial moment replayed in her mind. The laughter echoed darker with every encounter, and the scuffed shoes became a symbol of her impulsive nature. Alex was always sitting quietly in the corner, wearing those shoes that seemed to tell a story all their own. Something drew her attention to him beyond the shoes. He was dedicated, hardworking, and often the first to arrive in the office and the last to leave. Each time she walked past his desk, she could see the focus in his eyes as he worked on his laptop, hunched over like he was guarding a treasure map. Days turned into weeks, and Emily realized she was developing a curiosity about the man behind the shoes. Who was he? What dreams kept him going? Conversations with her colleagues revealed limited insights. Most people dismissed him as just another intern, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him. Then came the Friday night happy hour, a casual event meant to celebrate the end of the week. The office transformed into a lively atmosphere filled with laughter and excitement. Emily arrived early, hoping to lose herself in the crowd and forget about the chaos of the week. As she wandered around, she spotted Alex standing at the bar, nursing a drink. He looked uncomfortable, as if he were a ghost, trying to blend in but never quite succeeding. Taking a deep breath, Emily approached him. She said brightly. He looked a bit surprised, as if she had interrupted a serious thought bubble. Sure, I could use some company," he replied, flashing a nervous smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Looks like you found the quiet corner," Emily teased, nodding toward the noisy crowd. At first, awkwardness bubbled between them, but as the conversation flowed, the walls began to dissolve. They spoke about everything: his small-town upbringing, her ambitions in marketing, and the dreams that flickered behind their eyes. Emily noticed how his face lit up when he talked about his family and how their sacrifices fueled his drive. Hours passed like minutes, and she felt a spark of connection. The laughter flowed freely, filling the space where tension once lingered. By the time they parted ways, Emily realized she had underestimated Alex. He wasn't just a guy with goofy shoes, he was a passionate individual striving for something greater. The weeks after that night blended into a familiar cadence of work and friendship. Emily and Alex became a support system for each other in the frenetic hustle of office life. They shared coffee breaks, collaborated on projects, and uncovered layers of insecurities that, until now, had been left unspoken. Yet, there was still a lingering sense of curiosity about Alex. He had become someone she looked forward to seeing each day, and that spark of interest morphed into something deeper. Emily admired his determination, but she also noticed his self-doubt. There were moments when his gaze fell to the floor and he seemed to shrink back into his own insecurities like a turtle retreating into its shell. Then came a day that turned everything upside down. As Emily made her way down the hall, she spotted a list posted on the wall, the executive elevator access list. A rush of excitement coursed through her veins as she scanned it. Among the big names and seasoned professionals, one name stood out to her: Alex. She hadn't expected to see him there and her heart raced. Could this be real? She called, practically breathless as she caught him in the hallway. I saw your name on the executive access list. Are you? His eyes widened with disbelief, a mixture of pride and nervousness washing over him. Yeah. I'm doing a presentation on a project I've been working on, he stammered. Emily echoed, her excitement bubbling up like a fountain. This is huge, Alex. This means you're truly being recognized. He rubbed the back of his neck, glancing away as if the confidence she was trying to lend him felt foreign. Thanks, but I don't know if I'm ready, she replied, shaking her head in disbelief. You've got this. You're brilliant. Look at everything you've accomplished so far. You've always been one step ahead of the rest of us. Their eyes locked for a moment, and she saw the flicker of possibility in his gaze. Maybe this was the nudge he needed to embrace the moment. The day of the presentation arrived like a thunderstorm brewing on the horizon. The atmosphere in the office felt charged with anticipation. Emily could hardly breathe as she entered the auditorium, filled with executives and other employees awaiting Alex's debut. The air buzzed with excitement, and she felt her heart race. When Alex was called up to present, he walked to the front, shoes squeaking slightly with each step reminding her of their first encounter. But this time he looked different. He stood taller, more composed. The moment he opened his mouth, his voice resonated with clarity and confidence. He talked about his project, weaving his passion and knowledge into a captivating narrative. The room hung on his every word, and applause greeted him as he finished. Emily felt pride swell in her chest as she cheered him on, her face beaming. He had transformed from the guy who stood in the background into a leader commanding the attention of the room. After the presentation, heart still pounding, she hurried to him, her excitement spilling over. You were extraordinary, Alex. He grinned, the joy unmistakable in his eyes. Thanks, Emily. As the weeks rolled by, Alex's name became even more prominent in the firm. He received recognition for his work, earning respect from executives who once overlooked him. Emily marveled at his growth, but she also noticed the way he began to carry himself. The shoes that once felt like a weight on his confidence now seemed like an anchor, reminding him of how far he had come. One afternoon, as they sat across from each other in the break room, she decided to bring up that first moment, the laughter, the embarrassment, the transformation. She started, her voice softening. He chuckled, shaking his head. I remember it well. I felt terrible, she admitted, sincerity filling her voice. I didn't know you then, but look at you now. Alex looked thoughtful for a moment. You know, maybe the shoes helped me. They reminded me of my journey, the hard work it took to get here, the struggles, the late nights. Emily smiled, awed by his perspective. Their conversation deepened as they shared stories and aspirations, understanding fully the growth they had both experienced. From that moment on, Emily felt a connection blossom into something deeper than friendship. As time moved on, their lives intertwined more intimately. They supported each other through work challenges and personal struggles. Weekend plans turned romantic, late-night brainstorming sessions turned into heart-shattering initial confessions. And as their relationship flourished, Alex's old shoes remained a quirky artifact of the past, an emblem of laughter that transformed into understanding, ridicule that blossomed into respect. They became a cherished part of the story they wrote together. Months later, while sitting on a park bench under a canopy of autumn leaves, Alex turned to her with a smile. Emily laughed, surprised. Really? Nope, they remind me of who I was and how far I've come, he said. Plus, every time I see them, I think of you. Her heart swelled as warmth flooded through her. It's funny how life works, he mused, looking into her eyes. Now, looking back, Emily realized that laughter doesn't just break barriers, it can reshape them entirely. In a world obsessed with appearances, they both discovered the beauty of authenticity. She learned that sometimes what we see at first glance isn't the full picture. As they held hands, the colors of their journey painted a beautiful portrait of growth, determination, and love. The shoes remained a symbol, a reminder that appearances shouldn't define worth, and that every moment, no matter how awkward or silly, could lead to something incredible. Together, they walked into the horizon of their future, ready for their next chapter, climbing the executive ladder together, floor by floor, laughing every step of the way. The sun glared through the glass doors of Collins and Pierce Financial, illuminating the lobby where Emily stood, her coffee cup steaming in her hand. As she prepared to head to her desk, she noticed him Alex standing at the coffee station with shoes that looked like they belonged in a lost and found bin. They were scuffed, oversized, and the kind of shoes that made a statement. Before she could stop herself, a laugh burst from her lips. It wasn't a mocking laugh, just a spontaneous reaction to something unexpected. But the moment it escaped, she watched as Alex's face fell, his cheeks flushing with embarrassment. He turned quickly, avoiding her gaze, and shuffled out of the lobby. Emily's laughter hung in the air, and as the silence enveloped her, a wave of guilt washed over her. She hadn't meant to hurt him. She only found herself surprised. But as she drank her coffee, the moment lingered in her mind. That laugh, once lighthearted, now weighed heavy on her conscience. Over the next few weeks, Emily saw Alex nearly every day, shuffling around the office in those same disheveled shoes. He sat in the corner of the conference room, rarely speaking but always listening intently. His presence was steady, yet she couldn't shake that first impression, the image of him glancing down at his worn-out footwear, exuding a kind of discomfort. As days passed, curiosity filled her. Who was he really? What were those shoes hiding? The more she observed him, the more she noticed the spark behind his eyes whenever he spoke of his passion for finance and marketing. There was a dedication in him, an ambition that seemed to go unnoticed by many. One Friday, the atmosphere was electric as the firm prepared for a happy hour to celebrate the end of a grueling week. Emily arrived, ready to enjoy a drink and unwind, when she spotted Alex standing awkwardly by the bar. His shoes squawked as he shifted his weight, trying to blend into the background. Taking a deep breath, Emily approached. "Hey, Alex," he turned, surprise painting his features. Hey, Emily. As she stood next to him, she felt the weight of their earlier encounter, but this time she wanted to show him there was more to her than that laugh. "You made it, just trying to survive, I guess," he replied with a shy smile, glancing over the crowd, clearly overwhelmed. "Yeah, I get it." "This can be a little too much," Emily laughed lightly, trying to ease his tension. "But hey, at least you're here." They began to talk, and as the ice slowly melted, Emily learned more about Alex. He spoke about his small-town roots and how his parents had worked multiple jobs to support his education. With every revelation, she saw a different side of him, an earnest determination to make something of himself, a hunger for success that resonated deeply. The more they talked, the more Emily was captivated by his honesty. The initial awkwardness faded away, replaced by genuine laughter and understanding. As the night unfolded, they found common ground in their aspirations and dreams, forming a bond that neither had anticipated. Time flew by, and each subsequent day at the office became a chance to learn more about Alex. They shared coffee breaks, collaborated on projects, and allowed vulnerability to blossom in the space between them. Emily was increasingly drawn to him, realizing that beneath those worn shoes was a man full of heart and ambition. The shoes became less of a distraction and more of a reminder of his journey. Then came a day that changed everything. As Emily strolled through the office, her attention drew to a list posted on the wall, the Executive Elevator Access List. It was a standard document, yet her heart raced as she scanned it. Among the usual high-ranking names, there it was, Alex's name, bold and clear. Her mind spun in disbelief. This couldn't be right. He was just an intern, wasn't he? She rushed to find him, excitement bubbling up. "Alex, I saw your name on the Executive Access List." His expression shifted from surprise to confusion. "I did, that's amazing," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm bursting through. "I mean, it's just for a small project," he said, trying to downplay his accomplishment. She said firmly, "You've put in the work, you deserve this chance." Alex looked unsure, glancing away as if the weight of expectation bore down on him. She questioned, feeling deep conviction. "You've got this, you're ready, just trust yourself." For a moment their eyes locked, and she saw a flicker of hope in his gaze. Perhaps, just perhaps, she had nudged him toward embracing this moment. The day of the presentation arrived, and with it came an air of anxious energy that hovered like a storm cloud. Emily could feel her heart pounding as she entered the auditorium packed with executives and other employees. She scanned the crowd for Alex, feeling that familiar mix of excitement and nerves. When Alex stood to present, he appeared different, more assured, more in control. Those unassuming shoes squeaked again, but instead of representing embarrassment, they signaled the start of a transformation. As he spoke, the room fell silent, fully engaged in what he had to share. He articulated his ideas with a renewed confidence, illustrating not just the efficacy of his project, but infusing it with passion. Emily watched, captivated, as the crowd leaned in, hanging onto his every word. The applause that erupted at the end of his presentation felt like a wave crashing over them all. Emily couldn't contain herself. She cheered loudly, pride bursting through her as joy filled her heart. Alex beamed with light, the transformation complete as he finally saw himself for who he truly was, a capable man deserving of respect and recognition. Later, Emily rushed to him, her eyes sparkling with joy. "You were incredible, seriously, really," he replied, disbelief coursing through his voice. "I know so, you own that room." Her enthusiasm radiated. In the weeks that followed, Alex found himself celebrated for his work. He was no longer just another intern. He earned his place among the ambitious employees at Collins and Pierce. Emily felt a mix of pride and admiration as she watched him flourish in a way that she knew he had longed for. At the same time, she felt a shift occurring between them. What started as friendship began to deepen into something more profound. Each coffee break now felt charged with unspoken feelings. They lingered longer in the hallways, laughter shared like a thread weaving their worlds closer together. But the shadow of that first moment still lingered in Emily's mind, a quiet testament to how far Alex had come. One afternoon at lunch, she mustered the courage to address it. "Hey Alex," she began, pulling at the thread of nostalgia. He chuckled, a playful smile on his face. "How could I forget? I regret that moment," Emily said, sincerity coloring her voice. "But I'm glad for where we are now," he replied thoughtfully. "It taught me a lot about not letting the small things define me." Emily nodded, impressed by his insight. "And you showed me that we can't judge anyone by their appearance or those small moments." "True," he said, an understanding passing between them. Their eyes locked for a moment, the air around them thick with unspoken feelings. This was no longer just a story about shoes. It was a story that brought them together, weaving a rich tapestry of understanding, growth, and connection. As the months rolled by, they became partners, not just in the office but in life. They explored each other's dreams, supported one another through challenges, and navigated the complexities of adulthood. Emily soaked in the joy of their companionship, witnessing Alex transform from that shy intern to a man of resilience and ambition. One evening, as they sat side by side watching the sunset, Alex turned to her. "You know, I might still have those shoes," he said, a mischievous grin on his face. "What?" She laughed, surprised. "Yep, they remind me of where I started, the laughter, the awkwardness, but mostly they remind me of you," he said softly. Her heart fluttered, enveloped in warmth. He replied, squeezing her hand gently. With every passing season, the bond they shared deepened, a partnership grounded in mutual respect and understanding. And behind the scenes, those old shoes which had once sparked laughter became a cherished reminder of their journey. Looking back, Emily recognized that first laugh as an entry point into something beautiful. It opened her eyes to the power of compassion, connection, and authenticity. In a world often quick to judge, they both learned the significance of looking beyond appearances. As they moved forward into their future, both professionally and personally, they knew they held a secret to success. True connection lies in understanding and embracing the entirety of another person's story, shoes and all. Hand in hand, they faced the world together, ready to conquer their dreams while laughing at the little things that brought them both joy. The sound of high heels clicking against polished floors echoed through the lobby of Collins and Pierce Financial. Emily rushed in, clutching her briefcase, already reeling from a morning filled with deadlines. As she walked toward the elevators, her eyes landed on him, Alex. He stood alone by the coffee machine, wearing an ill-fitting suit and sneakers that had seen better days. They were his constant companions, worn and scuffed like a badge of some long-fought battle. She couldn't help it. Laughter escaped her lips, sudden and unfiltered. It spilled out, ringing through the air as Alex looked up, surprise and embarrassment mingling in his expression. His cheeks flushed a deep crimson, and he quickly turned away, shuffling out of the lobby as if he could disappear into the wall. Emily felt a twinge of guilt wash over her. That innocent chuckle had turned into something heavy. She hadn't meant to hurt him. The sight of those shoes, so out of place in their polished world, had caught her off guard. But now, as she rode the elevator to her floor, her laughter felt like a stone lodged in her stomach. Weeks passed, and Emily found herself catching glimpses of Alex almost daily. The sneakers became part of her routine. She would observe him navigating the office with a quiet intensity, always focused, always reserved. He rarely spoke, blending into the sea of sharp suits and confident strides that filled the office. As time went on, curiosity replaced the guilt she had felt. Who was this guy? What dreams propelled him forward? Emily learned he was an intern juggling classes while trying to make a name for himself in finance. Every time she walked by his desk, a sense of admiration grew within her. Then one Friday afternoon, the company held a happy hour to celebrate a recent big project. Emily arrived early, her excitement bubbling over as she grabbed a drink and scanned the room. She spotted Alex in the corner, his sneakers once again a stark contrast to the atmosphere around him. He was quietly observing, sipping soda as people mingled. Taking a deep breath, Emily decided to approach him. The moment felt significant, charged with unspoken potential. "Hey, Alex." He looked a bit startled but nodded. "Sure, are you kidding? Everyone should notice you," she said, her tone friendly and encouraging. As they talked, the awkwardness that had once defined their interactions melted away. Emily learned about his modest upbringing, the sacrifices his parents had made, and how he always felt the weight of their expectations on his shoulders. With every word, she could see the passion behind his quiet exterior. "I always wanted to prove myself," he said, his eyes lighting up. Emily found herself drawn into the intensity of his ambition. It was inspiring, refreshing even, to hear someone speak so earnestly about their dreams. As the evening rolled on, they shared stories, jokes, and a rare connection that made the room feel bright and electric. The next few weeks were filled with work, laughter, and growing camaraderie. Emily discovered more about Alex, how thoughtful and smart he was. They collaborated on projects, stayed late to make sure everything was perfect, and even shared coffee breaks filled with playful banter. But while they bonded, there was still something about Alex that intrigued her. She saw flickers of self-doubt behind his easy smile. Despite his ambitions, he remained uncertain about his place in this corporate world. Then came a pivotal day. As Emily walked through the office, she noticed a list taped to the wall: an executive elevator access list. It was a simple document, but gave her a rush of excitement as she scanned the names. Among the corporate giants, there it was, Alex's name. Her heart raced. Could this be a mistake? He was an intern, yes, but this was monumental. She hurried down the hall, eager to find him. She called out, breathless, "I saw your name on the access list." His eyes widened with disbelief, shock etching his features. "Wait, really? Yes, that's incredible. You've earned this chance." A flicker of doubt crossed his face. "It's just a small project." "This isn't just a small project," she insisted, shaking her head. "You have to believe in yourself. You've done the work." Their eyes locked for a moment, and she could see the flicker of hope. Perhaps her encouragement could be the catalyst he needed. The day of the presentation arrived, the air thick with tension. Emily felt a mix of excitement and apprehension as she entered the packed auditorium. Executives filled the seats, their expressions unreadable as they awaited Alex's moment in the spotlight. He stood to present, shoes squeaking slightly as he walked to the front. This time he stood tall, a flicker of confidence radiating from him. As he spoke, he commanded the room. The laughter and lighthearted moments they'd shared transformed into a powerful narrative that gripped the audience. Emily felt a rush of pride as she watched. Alex articulated his ideas, weaving them together with passion. The crowd leaned forward entranced, and as he finished, applause erupted. She couldn't help but cheer, her enthusiasm spilling over. Later on, she ran to him, excitement bubbling over. "You were phenomenal, I told you." "Really?" he said, his shock evident. She responded, her smile widening. In the days that followed, everything began to shift for Alex. He received recognition for his work, the executives praising his dedication and insight. Emily beamed with pride. She had watched him grow from that awkward intern into someone who had truly carved out his place in the firm. But one day, that nagging sense of guilt resurfaced, lingering like an unwanted shadow. As they sat together during lunch, Emily finally decided to bring it up. He chuckled, the memory clearly bringing some humility back to him. "Yeah, I remember that moment all too well. I really didn't mean it to offend," she admitted, sincerity coloring her voice. "But sometimes those little moments become a real turning point. I realized those shoes represented my journey," he said thoughtfully. "I wore them out of comfort, but they reminded me of all the late nights, the struggles." Their eyes locked, understanding floating between them like an invisible thread. This was no longer just a story about shoes. It was a narrative of growth, resilience, and connection that had weaved their destinies together. As the weeks rolled on, so did their friendship, evolving into something deeper. Late-night work sessions turned into shared dreams. Emily felt a shift every time they met. There was an intensity that simmered beneath the surface, a blend of friendship and burgeoning romance. Their laughter became more intimate, their glances charged with unspoken feelings. Then one evening, as they found themselves engrossed in conversation over dinner, Alex turned to her. "You know, I still have those shoes," he said, a playful grin on his face. "What?" Emily exclaimed, surprised. "Yeah, they remind me of who I was and how far I've come. Plus, they make for a good story," he joked. Emily's heart warmed at the gesture. Those shoes had unintentionally become symbolic of their journey. "You should wear them again," she teased. He laughed, and for a moment the bond between them felt unshakable. Together they had evolved, sharing their vulnerabilities while celebrating their triumphs. As time passed, they were seen more often as a pair, navigating work and life as partners. Their connection blossomed, filled with challenges and adventures, never forgetting that pivotal moment when laughter and ambition intertwined to create something beautiful. Months later, on a quiet evening, sitting side by side beneath a shimmering sky punctuated by stars, Alex turned to her with a serious expression. "Really?" she asked, intrigued. "It made me realize that we can't take ourselves too seriously. Sometimes what feels like humiliation can lead us to the most profound growth," he said, reaching for her hand. Emily smiled, feeling the warmth of their story wrap around them. It was deeper than what met the eye, in understanding that life twists and turns in unexpected ways. Through all the laughter, ambition, and struggle, they learned that true connection lay in the moments that shape us. Those gloomy shoes had once been the object of ridicule, but had evolved into a reminder of resilience and transformation. As they moved forward into a shared future, both professionally and personally, they embraced the lesson learned along the way. Appearances don't define who we are. Behind every scuffed shoe lies a story worth telling, worth embracing, and worth celebrating. Together, they prepared to face whatever came their way, hand in hand, ready for the next chapter of their lives. Each step resonated with the laughter, love, and the understanding that had brought them together. Who would have thought that a mere pair of shoes could lead to something so incredible? With joy and excitement in their hearts, they stepped forward into their future, eager to uncover all the beautiful surprises that lay ahead. The door slid open with a soft chime, revealing the bustling lobby of Collins and Pierce Financial. Emily stepped inside, her mind racing with the day's to-do list. As she maneuvered through the crowd, her eyes landed on him, Alex. He was standing there, a tall figure with an awkward posture, wearing a suit that seemed one size too big, and most notably a pair of shoes that looked bizarrely out of place. They were sneakers worn, scuffed, and slightly oversized. In that moment, her reaction was instinctual. Laughter erupted from her lips, almost involuntarily, like a sudden burst of energy amidst the chaos. She didn't mean to mock him, but as soon as the laughter left her mouth, panic flickered in Alex's eyes. He turned his gaze downward, flushing red, and quickly moved away, disappearing into the crowd. For the rest of the day, Emily felt that short burst of laughter weighing heavily on her conscience. What had she done? He was just trying to navigate the same demanding environment, and here she was laughing at what seemed to be one of his most honest attributes. Over the next few weeks, she saw Alex daily, bent over his laptop in the corner of the office, those same worn sneakers creaking with every step. At first, his presence gnawed at her reminders of that humiliating moment, but soon something shifted. Emily found herself increasingly curious about him, drawn by the quiet determination she could see from afar. There was an intensity in his demeanor, a focus that nearly drowned out the noise of the bustling office. He was smart and hardworking, often the first to arrive and the last to leave. Slowly, she began to admire him, even as the memory of her laughter haunted her. Then came that Friday evening when the company announced a happy hour to celebrate the completion of a major project, a break that everyone needed. Emily arrived at the venue, the atmosphere buzzing with excitement and laughter. As she scanned the room, her heart skipped a beat when she spotted Alex standing alone in a corner, nervously fiddling with his drink. Taking a deep breath, she decided to go over. "Hey, Alex," she asked, her voice bright to counteract the inevitable awkwardness. He looked up, shock painting his features. Sure, why not?" she replied, hoping to break through the wall that had seemed to separate them since that day. And then, to her surprise, he relaxed. They started talking, easing into a conversation that flowed more naturally than either expected. Emily learned about his small-town roots, where dreams often felt far away, and about his family, the sacrifices his parents made to send him to college. His voice carried an earnestness, an unfiltered vulnerability that made her sit up and take notice. With each passing moment, she found herself captivated, no longer focusing on the shoes that had once caught her off guard. The more they talked, the more she wanted to peel back the layers surrounding him. As the night drew on, Emily and Alex discovered shared ambitions and dreams that resonated deeply with each other. It was one of those rare, beautiful moments where real connections forged unexpectedly in a world built on appearances. Days turned into weeks, and the rhythm of their friendship began to evolve. Coffee breaks flooded with laughter. Project collaborations turned into creative brainstorming marathons. Emily felt a sense of camaraderie that she had never experienced before, a friendship blossoming in the most unexpected circumstances. But there was still something simmering underneath that tension, an attraction that had been building like a delicate thread. Moments lingered longer between them, glances held deeper meanings, laughter resonated against the walls of the office, wrapping them in a sense of closeness. Then one overcast morning, Emily strolled through the office and noticed a simple piece of paper tacked to the wall, the executive elevator access list. She glanced at the names, VPs, directors, all the big players. And then she saw Alex's name. Her heart raced. This was unbelievable. How could he have made it onto this list? Fueled by a rush of excitement and pride, she hurried to find him. "Alex, I just saw your name on the executive elevator access list." His face lit up, but disbelief shadowed his eyes. "Really? I would never joke about this. You made it." He rubbed the back of his neck, visibly torn. "It's just for a small project." "What do you mean, not ready?" "You've been preparing for this." He hesitated, glancing away as if the pressure of expectation was heavy on his shoulders. "What if I mess it up? Just remember," she pressed, stepping closer. "We all have to start somewhere. Don't let a fear of failure hold you back." For a moment, Alex's eyes sparkled with hope. Maybe she was right. Maybe this was the moment he had been waiting for, the chance to prove himself. The day of the presentation arrived under a tense, electric atmosphere. Emily felt butterflies flutter in her stomach as they moved into the auditorium filled with executives in their crisp business attire. The lights softened and her heart raced. When Alex stood up to present, her breath caught in her throat. He was no longer the shy intern shuffling in oversized sneakers. He was a man ready to take on the world. With unwavering confidence, he began to speak, illustrating his ideas with passion and conviction. Every word that tumbled from his mouth captivated the audience. He painted a vision, showcasing not just his project, but a glimpse of who he was, a driven individual capable of greatness. Emily watched, spellbound, as the applause began to erupt when he finished. The crowd roared with approval, and she couldn't help but cheer, feeling exhilarated and proud. Alex had transformed before her eyes, finding his voice amidst a sea of corporate giants. Later, as the applause faded and the auditorium cleared, Emily rushed to find him, her excitement bubbling over. "You were incredible, really?" he asked, still riding the high of the moment. "More than amazing," she replied, a grin spreading across her face. In the following weeks, Alex became a rising star in the firm, earning respect from executives who once overlooked him. Emily felt pride swell within her, having witnessed his transformation. But lurking behind that pride was the realization of their growing connection, a spark that felt undeniable. Then, on a crisp afternoon, as they walked through a park during their lunch break, Emily turned to him. He chuckled, a hint of nostalgia playing on his lips. "How could I forget? I felt horrible about it. I didn't know you then, but seeing you now, it amazes me how far you've come," she said softly. He looked thoughtful, pausing before replying. "You know, that moment taught me something." Suddenly, the air felt charged, an undeniable tension crackling around them. They stood face to face, emotions churning silently. Alex's gaze flickered down, then back to her, and in that moment, everything felt possible. Days turned into weeks, and their friendship deepened into an unpredictable whirlwind of emotions. Their conversations transformed, and every passing day felt charged with unexpressed feelings. The laughter fell into a comfortable rhythm, punctuated with lingering touches and shared glances. What was happening between them was intoxicating. Then came the day Emily learned of the big merger, the one Collins and Pierce had been working on for months. As she dug through emails, her heart began to race. Excitement surged, mixing with anxiety as she processed the implications. This was huge for the company, and there was a chance Alex might play a vital role in it. But just as she looked up from her desk, ready to share the news with him, she overheard a conversation at the water cooler. A couple of executives were discussing candidates for a key position. Her heart sank as she heard Alex's name come up among them. "He might have talent, but he doesn't have the experience we need," one executive scoffed. Emily's heart raced as she felt a familiar sting. The same voices that had once laughed at Alex's shoes seemed to echo again, reinforcing insecurities and fears. It wasn't just about the shoes anymore, it was about perception, judgment, and the harsh truths of corporate life. Later that day, she felt a sense of dread settle over her as she approached Alex. She could see confidence in his demeanor, but doubt crept in. Should she tell him what she had overheard? Would it crush him? Taking a deep breath, she stood by his desk. He looked up, and for a moment she saw joy mixed with confusion. Of course, gathering her thoughts, Emily tried to find the right words. "I just wanted to say I know how hard you've worked, and I overheard some executives talking about the merger. There are..." As the words fell from her lips, she watched the joy drain from his face, replaced by uncertainty. "They think you might not be ready for this next step," she said, her heart heavy. Silence blanketed them, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Alex looked down at his desk, grappling with doubt and disappointment. Emily felt her stomach twist. She hadn't meant to take away his confidence, but she wanted him to be aware. "I'll be honest," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. The realization that her words had pierced through him hit Emily like a wave. "No, Alex, you belong here. You've proved that time and again." But he shook his head, the shadows deepening in his eyes. "It's hard to ignore the opinions of people who have been here for years. I thought I could rise above it, but just then the elevator dinged in the distance. The sound echoed through the longing silence, a reminder that time was slipping away. In that moment, Emily faced a decision. Should she fight for him? Should she help him believe in himself again, or would it be better to keep her distance, allowing the inevitable to unfold? Her heart ached to encourage him. She wanted him to see how far he had come, how deserving he was. "Listen to me, Alex," she urged, leaning closer. "You can't let their opinions define your worth. You have what it takes to succeed." But as she searched his eyes, she noticed the resolve dimming, the flicker of hope fading. Just at that moment, Alex glanced toward the door and his expression changed. He looked like he was ready to walk away from everything they had built. "Maybe I was wrong to think I could do this," he said quietly. And with that, he turned, leaving Emily standing there, hot breath caught in her throat. As he walked away, she felt a profound emptiness settle in. The laughter, the connection, the promise of growth all had slipped through her fingers in an instant. She watched as he approached the elevator doors, uncertainty etched across his features. In that moment, she realized she had a choice: to let him go or fight for him in a way he didn't yet understand. She called out, desperation coloring her voice. The elevator doors slid open and he hesitated, glancing back. But in that fleeting moment, a wave of doubt washed over him, a shadow creeping into his eyes. Would he step back or walk into the unknown, choosing to give up on the very dream he had cultivated? Before the doors could close, she called out again, feeling every beat of her heart. "Don't walk away." The elevator doors began to slide shut, but just before they closed, she caught a glimpse of Alex's face: confusion, pain, and something deeper lurking beneath. As those doors sealed his fate, she realized their future hung in the balance, and everything they fought for was about to change. What would he choose? What awaited them both on the other side? As the elevator disappeared from view, Emily's heart raced, and she took a step forward, determined to follow him wherever it led, ready to fight for the future they had only begun to imagine.